Hello and welcome to No Soul Left Behind. I'm Laura Brockway and I'm here with my guest Adam Sedia, who is an attorney, an author, a composer, and a speaker. And he's offering up his gifts for God, and we're going to talk about some of his projects today. First, I want to start out with reading Adam's bio. I'll be reading it because it's very impressive and very long, and I don't want to make any mistakes. Adam Sedia grew up in Sherrville and currently lives in St. John, Indiana, with his wife Ivana and their daughter and son. He received his undergraduate degrees in chemistry and English from Indiana University in 2006 and his law degree from DePaul University in 2009. He currently practices as a civil and appellate litigator at the firm of Johnson & Bell in Crown Point, Indiana. He published 3 collections of poetry, The Spring's Autumn, Inquietude, and Visions Beyond. They're all available on Amazon. His poems have also been published in Indiana Voice Journal, Tulip Tree Review, the Chained Muse Review, the Society of Classical Poets, and Northwest Indiana Literary Journal. Adam has also had a short story published in Liberty Island magazine and law-related articles in various periodicals. He also composes music, which can be heard on his YouTube channel. And he is a grant recipient of the FY20 Individual Advancement Program of the Indiana Arts Commission, which is what we're going to cover today. And I also want to add, he is my fellow parishioner at the ICK Apostolate St. Joseph Hammond.
Yes.
Welcome, Adam. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I wanted to, because you are my fellow Latin mass goer, I wanted to open with a Pater Noster and have you lead, please.
All right. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Pater noster, qui es in celis, sanctificetur nomen tuum, adveniat regnum tuum, fiat voluntas tua, sicut in cielo et in terra.
Panem nostrum quotidianum da nobis odie, et dimitte nobis debita nostra, sicut et nos dimittimus debitoribus nostris, et ne nos inducas in tentationem, sed libera nos a malo. Amen. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti.
Amen.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. I love when I have someone to pray in Latin with. So I want to start out, Adam, tell us about what you're doing with the grant that you received from the Indiana Arts Commission.
Well, I've always been a devotee of classical music, and I was, rather than pursuing it as a serious career, I've pursued it as a hobby and taught myself composition. And I decided to finally put myself out and put my works out into the public. And I found out Indiana every year has a grant program where they separate their arts grants into 2 categories. One is more like quilting and folk arts, and the other one is more what I would, not to knock the other one, but what I would call serious arts, literature, music, drama, things of that sort. So fiscal year 20 was that second category, and I applied for the grant to have 4 of my piano sonatas recorded by a live pianist. While I would consider myself a competent pianist, I wanted to have someone professional record them and bring them to the world that way. And I was one of the announced grant recipients. And one of the conditions of the grant is there has to be some sort of community involvement. And what I am going to do for that is present about what a sonata is and the history of the sonata form, and use my own works to illustrate that. So there will be a series of free lectures locally.
Give us a little hint on what a sonata is.
Well, okay, a sonata is the building block form of Western music. Symphonies, string quartets, piano works, they're generally, originally they were built out of the sonata form, and over time some of them gradually develop more of a free form. But the sonata form, which has a strict formula, as far as both structure and tonality goes, forms the building block. And it actually had its origins in church music. Frequently during the or after the consecration or during the distribution of communion, the organist would play a musical interlude, and there were two types. There was a toccata, which comes from Italian toccare, to touch, which was more for showmanship. That was usually done after the recessional at the end of Mass. And then there was the sonata, which comes from Italian suonare, or to sound, and that was more for the musical quality. And the organist would play that usually during distribution of the Eucharist.
Okay, so that's where the church ties in.
Exactly.
I knew it did, so thank you for explaining that. I don't know anything about music. I can't carry a note.
Most Western art, maybe not most, but significant part of Western art has its origin in church, and when I say church, I mean Catholic Church practices and traditions, because art traditionally was primarily for the glory of God, and church was the best place to show it and to serve God that way.
Definitely. Now, are these sonatas that you have written, are they church music, or are they...
No, they are secular music.
Okay.
Again, the form was originally used in church, but it gradually was played for entertainment purposes, and usually for noblemen who had a staff of musicians around to provide entertainment and the time to afford entertainment. They would, and a lot of your great composers, Haydn, Mozart, they started out in the employ of noblemen, and they would compose sonatas and related material for performance by their patron. Okay.
Now, what inspired you in each piece? Is there a theme or something in particular that inspired you?
They were, like most classical music and traditional classical music, it's art for art's sake. There's no program, there's no lyrics, there's no message. It's strictly music for its own beauty and its own enjoyment.
Now, will you be performing, or will your musician, your pianist, be performing your music in public, or just recording?
Right now it's just recording. We have discussed a possible of a live performance, just the logistics of that, especially with the coronavirus situation. We kind of have to wait and see with that.
I bring that up because I think we can help you with some videos. I think that might be...
I would love that.
I think we could produce some videos that could help get it out there. So we will talk about the details of that later, but I can see lots of ways to... obviously our culture at this point in time in 2020 is... falling fast, and we need more classical music and anything traditional, really.
Well, I actually have a thought on that. Music has sort of diverted in two directions, neither of which is good, in my opinion. On the one hand, you have the popular music, which has gone towards vulgarity and glorifying really awful things. And on the other hand, you have high culture, which has gone into abstraction, really unmusicality, or what you see in the art museum with what I'll call degeneration from classical art into abstract pretension at art. That's been paralleled in the music world as well. Over the last 120 years. I was, a personal story on this, in undergraduate, I was actually contemplating changing my studies to music composition, and I had taken a course, and the graduate student I was working with said, "Oh, you can't continue writing like this, you have to write the music of the future." And that's when I knew I wasn't going to be part of the musical establishment, and it would be hard for me to do that. So I relegated it as a hobby. I draw my income from other sources, but that has enabled me really to produce art that is true to what I feel art should be, and that ultimately glorifies God rather than...
Exactly, because you aren't compromising. It's what's in your heart.
Exactly.
God built each of our hearts and gave us each a purpose to be used for Him. And a lot of people only use their gifts if they're getting a profit out of it. And that's what I'm really impressed about. Both Adam and his lovely, beautiful wife, Ivana, are actively searching for ways to use their gifts voluntarily to serve God and to give glory to God. And we all need to be, I talk about this all the time, we all need to be doing that, but very few people do it. So I know Ivana and I have talked several times about this. She's looking for ways also to donate her time and talent. And we all need to be doing that, because if you hold out for money, you won't be blessed. But if you do it from your heart, then God will send you the blessings. You don't hold your gifts for worldly profit. So that's one thing that the reason that I wanted to interview you, because I'm really impressed. I think more people, all of us, need to be doing this, but I really hope that this will inspire other people to say, you know, what are my gifts and how can I give back without profit? I know you are doing. We'll talk about a few other things that you're volunteering your time doing too to serve God, and so it all glorifies God in the end when it comes from your heart. Had you compromised, as that person had said, you need to make the music of the future, you probably wouldn't have been successful because it wasn't true to God and true to your gifts in your heart. So I just truly believe that, because I do something for nothing all the time and then I'm blessed later.
Exactly. And you have to do what you love for the love of it.
Absolutely. That's when you're doing your best.
Exactly.
Let's see. So we're going to tell you, I'll include in this video where you can find Adam's previous works, and we're definitely going to be on you about when these recordings come out, that we can maybe make a video series and even just to put them out there and tell you where you can get them. But well, could you share one of your poems with us? Would you read one for us?
I'd be happy to. This is out of my third book, Visions Beyond. I'm going to read a short one for you called Blood Moon. Looming balefully, hanging swollen low in the twilight sky with a blood-stained glow, your vague face stares out in a shriek of fear, or a wrathful shout, or a scornful sneer, or perhaps all three. Do you glimpse the doom that we fail to see, but that must consume?
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Very beautiful. Makes you think. Definitely. I love this. So, and you have an entire book of poetry.
Correct.
It's a difficult subject for me in school, but now I understand it a whole lot more because life helps you understand things like this. And what's the name of your YouTube channel?
It's just my own name.
Your own name?
Adam Sedia.
Adam Sedia. Okay. I'm going to subscribe. I hope Adam gets lots of subscribers. I'm challenging everyone watching this to please subscribe to Adam's YouTube channel, Adam Sedia, and listen to his music. Also look for his books and his poetry and his music. So, also, let me see. I understand that you are going to start teaching Latin at our apostolate. You are into a lot of things.
Yes. I'm also self-taught in Latin too. It was one of the. It was one of those. In high school, I decided.
You speak fluent Latin?
I wouldn't say speak. I can read it very well. I don't have the chance to speak it with too many people, but what motivated me to do it was Canon Gardner, who was our first priest, he offered a Latin class, and then he was transferred to Italy. I'm a little jealous of that.
I keep telling him that every time I talk to him. I don't know what you're complaining about. I would love it.
Well, say hi to him if next time you speak. But there was no replacement for him, and the classes went by the wayside, so I thought I would fill the void. And, I haven't taught a language before, so I thought I would put myself out there. And
I know everyone, I mean, everyone is excited about it. I'm going to be so honest and make a confession here. Well, first of all, my mother spoke fluent Latin. She was in the club. And, you know, she grew up in Catholic school in the 40s and 50s. They all spoke fluent Latin. And then I was baptized pre-vet too, but grew up in the Novus Ordo, and she would beg me to let her teach me Latin, and I wanted nothing to do with it, nothing. Please, she wanted me to be in her secret club so that she had someone to speak it to besides her own sisters. But I was like, no, I don't want to learn a new language. It's a dead language. And it's kind of funny because now I started taking the lessons from Canon Gardner, sort of, even though my mother's in heaven and I'll never be able to speak it with her, because she always wanted me to and I rejected it, that I just had this, really wanted to learn Latin. I still really want to learn it. But don't be offended if I don't join the Latin class, because it has nothing to do with you. It was almost a relief when Canon Gardner quit teaching them because I was not doing good. It was terrible. It's not the Latin. I was not catching on. So you're self-taught.
It is a hard language to learn because it's a lot more grammatically complex than English is. But there's benefits to learning anything. But in Latin and ancient Greek and any of the classical languages, your English grammar will improve so much from learning that, because you're forced to learn the rules, because writing or reading or speaking Latin correctly, you have to understand those grammatical rules, and you sound intelligent when you speak English that way. And another thing too is, people don't realize this, but Latin was the language of educated people up until 200 years ago. Isaac Newton wrote his works in Latin, even though he was an English speaker and a Protestant. It was the cultured language. So you can read works in translation, but you lose the original thought of the author when you read a translated work. And so many foundational and important works of our culture are written in Latin. It is such an enriching and enlightening experience to be able to enjoy those in the original language. We'll kind of see where we are with that. My pianist is based in Illinois, and they're on extreme lockdown now, so there'll be some coordination there. I'm continuing to write. Right now, I'm revising my 2-string quartets. I finished one. I'm working on the second now. And then I have some orchestral works, including a symphony, that I'd like to revise and hopefully find an outlet to have that performed soon. And what I'd really like to do, too, is write music for use in church, in the liturgy. But I'm sure an opportunity will come for that.
If God gave you the gifts, He gave them to you for a reason.
Exactly.
Exactly. And when the time is right, He will tell you, it's time, Adam, it's time for that gift now. And you can't do it all at once either.
No, you can't. That's for sure.
So now, where can people buy your poetry books?
My poetry books are all for sale on Amazon.com. They are published through the Kindle Direct Publishing.
Okay.
The music, sheet music is available on sheetmusicplus.com if anyone is interested in playing it themselves. The recordings, there may be MP3s out. I'm working on developing a website just to have an easy access point for all of this, with links and everything. But right now, the poems that have been published in the various journals are available online for anyone to view for free. So you can get a good taste of my work beyond what's in the books or beyond what I've read.
And on his YouTube channel.
Yes.
Okay. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
Yeah, there is something I will add. My wife is originally from Argentina. She came here when she was a baby, but she's a native Spanish speaker and also knows Italian because that's her background and my background as well. So we are a multilingual household, and that gives a new perspective on things. Latin not only improves your English, but it helps you understand the other languages as well.
See, there are so many reasons to learn and take Latin. So I'll be sending people to your class even if I don't show up.
Okay.
So when are you going to get that going, in the fall?
That's the plan. Summer's a bad time to have classes, and both for me and for the students. So when the weather gets bad and things get cold and people are inside, that's usually a good time to start studying.
Okay. Well, everyone in this area, Northwest Indiana, and all of my trad cats, there will be Latin lessons at St. Joseph Hammond this fall. I'm going to make sure he gets students. I'm going to be recruiting everyone for him. So I cannot thank you enough for coming on and talking to us and sharing your gifts that God gave you with the world.
Well, thank you for having me and for sharing my story with your audience.
Oh, it's my pleasure, absolutely. And I hope that we will talk about another project, and they might be seeing some videos, because
hopefully.
I really like that idea. Okay, well, if there's nothing else you wanted to add, we're going to pray us out with a prayer to St. Michael, unless you don't happen to pray that in Latin, do you? I don't have it memorized in Latin. I'll pray it in English if you don't.
I don't have it memorized in Latin either.
Pray it in Latin now, but I'm still reading it.
I do have the Memorare in Latin memorized.
Oh, how about you pray us out with that? Yes, absolutely.
All right. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Memorare opissima Virgo Maria, non esse auditum a secula, quemquam ad tua correntem praesidia, ad tua implorantem auxilia, ad tua petentem suffragia esse derelictum. Ego tali animatus confidentia, ad te, Virgo Virginum Mater, curo ad te venio. Noli mater verbi verba mea despicere, sed audi propitia et exaudi. Amen.
Amen. Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. See how beautiful that Latin is? It is so beautiful. You'll do great at St. Joseph.
Well, thank
you so much. And we will see you here next time on No Soul Left Behind, where we are fighting for every single soul, including yours and mine. God bless you. I love you all.